You remember, it's been a little while. I'm going to say sometime within the last couple of months maybe. I did a video, and I told you what I was talking about was what a man by the name of Martin Armstrong had said. The guy was wrongfully thrown in jail. The bankers hated this guy's guts. They were able to get a judge to somehow throw him in jail for like 5 or 7 years or something for contempt of court, for like something he didn't even know what even happened. They just threw him in jail like for nothing. They want him out of their way because he knows how to fix the system. He's a phenomenal economist type of guy and is very intelligent. Now, the thing that I talked about last time was the collapse of the Roman Empire and what was one of the main driving factors. It wasn't the only driving factor, but it was pretty much the main one, if not one of the main ones. And that was unfunded liabilities, also known today as free government handouts, as pension systems, all funded by the taxpayer, etc. Those unfunded liabilities is what caused the Roman Empire to greatly expand and gobble up more precious metals from the people that they conquered and more things, and that appetite just couldn't be fed fast enough. They had to water down their currency, gold and silver, take less gold and silver out of it, put other garbage metals in it, etc. And I explained through his article why and how that happened. Really good article. So, there's another article that I'd like to read. But first I gotta take a swig of some orange juice. That's what I'm talking about. Now, let me start here today. He says, sometimes I forget that my readership is substantially different. He's clarifying some things in this. Sometimes I forget today that my readership is substantially different from what it was before. At Princeton Economics, we always had a network of contacts that wanted the truth out. During the whole Euro negotiations, there were those in central banks who were very concerned what the politicians were creating and were leaking to us the details, knowing they would get to the right ears. Those in central banks understood my deep concern that they were about to revalue the debts higher that would one day result in their collapse as we are seeing today. This guy's been around since probably, I know he's been around since the 80s, but I think even in the 70s this guy was around talking about stuff. Martin Armstrong. When governments wanted to get particular info out that they could not be seen as taking such a position, they would leak the info to us for strategic release. What we wrote was not for the general newspapers and public consumption, but was limited to the institutional/corporate niche. Thus, there would not be the blowback from the general media. When I write, quote, speaking to the people on Capitol Hill reveals a tremendous impasse, end quote, excuse me, it is not something in passing. I am not reporting my opinion or my belief. I am reporting fact based upon a conversation with said contacts. The conspiracy theory advocates do themselves a disservice by assuming everybody in Congress is in on the act. This is not the case. There are people who are lining their pockets and are out to grab everything on their way out the door. There are those linked into the investment banks and do their bidding because they are in key positions. Let's see, yeah, there's a few come to mind. There are those linked into the investment banks that do their bidding because they're in key positions. Then there is the core body who really believe they have made it to the promised land of prestige and do not see themselves as the problem, but truly believe in the dogma they preach. This leaves a very few who see the cliff and are trying to yell fire, but they are largely ignored, and some may avoid them altogether. It is wrong to believe that everyone is part of the grand conspiracy of the investment bankers who are far too smart to bring everyone into the fold. They have the unelected courts and the executive branch in their pocket, and they control the prosecutions and secure their safety, which is self-evident that not a single top exec in the banks has today even yet been charged. Read The Greatest Bull Market in History that I wrote in 1986 about the Great Depression. They were after everybody. The legislature is really the third branch and the ugly stepsister. That's Congress. You can count on both hands the number of... Oh, wait a minute. Legislature. Judges. Well, yeah, we have legislative branch, executive branch, and the judicial. Okay, so I was right. Get confused in those stupid terms. You can count on both hands the number of judges ever investigated by Congress since the birth of the United States of America. That somewhere in between 10 and 0, right? They are a symbol of democracy, but outside of that function of voting for spending, what else do they really accomplish? Nothing. They are someone to placate the pretense of a democracy, but there is no respect for Congress, and they have little practical real power. The bureaucracy runs the government, and even if Congress passes a law, the courts say what it means, and the executive branch has the discretion to enforce it. So there is no democracy, and there is no real republic. That is just a show. I have tried to help. I have answered questions even during the crisis for them. Given where I was, and I believe he's talking about when he was in jail under this false lockup I told you about, why would some of them write to me asking for help? Because they knew there were no straight answers coming from the so-called experts among the banks. But let's be practical. Congress is not going to save the nation. Like the Roman Senate, they became just a hollow symbol of the Republic during imperial times. Our elected officials have no real power. The executive branch wrote the Patriot Act. They signed it. The executive wrote TARP and asked for total discretion. They signed it. Other than money, what real purpose does Congress serve? It has allowed itself to become the ugly stepsister that dresses up and struts around, but as soon as mother comes home, she scatters to fall in line. Congress has been reduced to an irrelevant branch by the executive and judiciary branches. This prevents the people from taking control of their fate, and the party bosses are the control over those members who are again unelected. So where is the democracy? I have walked the halls of Capitol Hill and have yet to find it. Those who have protected the executive and investment banks have been in office as long as Muammar Gaddafi. It is a mistake to assume the investment banks are in control instead of Congress. They did not expect the economic meltdown that took place. Even Goldman Sachs had to be bailed out. They were trading as usual, looking for a guaranteed trade, but once AIG went off the cliff, nobody thought through to the next logical step. It was all about instant gratification, not even the next quarter. There is no secret commission that controls the world, which I'll actually disagree with, because I know Lindsey Williams, and he tells me what's going to happen on the world based off of these small group of people that can pull this off. So that one sentence I disagree with, but it doesn't matter because this is a fantastic article. So he says it is a mistake to assume investment banks are in control instead of Congress. They did not expect this, etc. AIG went off the cliff. Nobody thought through to the next logical step. It was all about instant gratifications, not even to the next quarter. There is no secret commission that controls the world. I disagree. There are those who would like to. However, the system is far too dynamic, and the best efforts or aspirations cannot control what they do not understand. By trying to create the perfect trade with no risk, they are themselves creating a very, I guess version is what he meant to say, of Marxism in the private sector that is opposed to free markets. That is my beef with the investment bankers. I see them as evil, and they hate my guts because they think they are entitled to rig the game. Those who think most of the people in Congress are smart are dead wrong. They are not. Most lawyers or doctors who have no experience, most are lawyers or doctors who have no experience in the subject matter of finance and economics. Boy, is that true. People who really are smart are out making the big bucks. They are not out feeding the ego. People who have really made it and are smart have the self-confidence and do not need to be told they are smart. Those who inherited their wealth are the ones who flaunt it because they know deep inside they did not create it. Look closely and you will see these are the people hanging their name on everything. The real movers and shakers don't have to prove a damn thing to anybody. Most politicians are vested insofar as they have attained power, and they are high on themselves for achieving that. As a matter of fact, you remember that lady, man, I wish I knew her name, Congress, or, Senate. And she was talking to some high-ranking military guy, general or something, and he was saying, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and she stops him and says, would you mind calling me Senator? I worked really hard for that title, and I'd really appreciate you addressing me by that title. Yes, Senator, no problem. And he complied and called her Senator. Man, is that not a prime example? Same thing with all these guys. Barney Frank, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi. Oh, Nancy. Oh, God, I hate that lady. Their job creates their self-worth. That's it. Their job creates their self-worth. They are proud of that accomplishment. You are not then going to convince these people they are the problem. Nor is an investment banker going to step out of the shadows and tell them what to do. That is what rank and file party bosses do. Again, Barney Frank, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, etc. With time and boredom, they become for sale, and that is when they become the hand of special interest groups because they need vast amounts of money to keep running for re-election to sustain that personal image of worth, which is basically false. But to them, that's what it is. You cannot paint everyone with the same brush. I hate the corruption more than anyone. I have been behind the curtain and seen it all. But I cannot subscribe to the fact that everyone is part of the corruption. Most are not and do not dare want to even look very close because they are afraid of what they might discover. They really do not understand the economy or how anything functions, just politics. That does not excuse them. The investment bankers know the game. Goldman is the top political contributor to both parties in Congress. Imagine that. They will never investigate the people that they need in order to run for re-election, that pay them gobs of money for their re-election campaigns. Therefore, Goldman is not going to be investigated by any kind of congressional anything. End of discussion. So, these people do not understand what is going on, so they are out of the loop, perhaps deliberately looking the other way. Who knows? They do not see the crisis coming and honestly believe government is the exception to all common sense. There are a precious few who honestly think, or who are honestly trying to convince others to open their eyes, but to no avail. Boy, does that sound familiar. Reminds me of myself and other people that try to wake people up. What I am reporting is not my opinion or my belief. I am reporting something garnered from my contacts, and trust me, if he says he has contacts in Congress or wherever, he has them. This guy does. I am reporting something garnered from my contacts who would like the truth out there, but cannot speak to the press, who is not always interested in reporting details lacking the understanding themselves, except the precious few. This impasse of which I am reporting, man, my nose is itching. This impasse of what I am reporting is the real beliefs of the two camps, right? Republicans, Democrats, regardless of what any of us believe to the contrary. One sees they have not spent enough, and the other wrongly thinks the economy did not cover because of too much spending. There is no talk of economic reform of the system. So even if they kick the can down the road for another 2 years, in other words, let's raise the deficit, right? The same crisis repeats with the debt ceiling again. Nobody is looking at the system and that it is even working. They're not even paying attention that the system itself isn't working. Do I think I could fix the system? Yes. The solution is very easy. Getting there is the problem. You have to stop the borrowing, and that means you have to get rid of the whole concept of investment banks controlling Congress. This is why they hate my guts and have been so desperate to discredit me any way possible collaterally, for they cannot address the solution head on. I do not believe in manipulating markets to make money. Great. I'm glad somebody believes that. Forecasting the future is a challenge. If you rig the game, where's the fun? A woman is usually more sexy dressed than naked because imagination is always better than reality. Now, is that not... Listen to that. Let me say that again. Think about that. A woman is usually more sexy when she's dressed than versus when she's naked, because your imagination is always better than reality. What you think she's going to look like naked, that anticipation, that wondering, your mind is telling you what you probably think it's like, and your mind is feeding you what you want to hear or know or see. And then if you take it off, oh, she has stretch marks. Oh, she has this. I'm just making this up, by the way. You know, it's a very good example. A woman is usually more sexy dressed than naked because imagination is always better than reality. That is so true, and not just in that example. Beautiful sentence. Fantastic. The same is true with the markets. That is why we buy the rumor but sell the news. The imagination and anticipation of something is usually better than the end result. This is why the booms are led by anticipation of future profits, as it was in the tech.com bubble, Russia, China, or the Mississippi bubble of 1720. The dream became reality. It just took 200 years. The investment bankers just want the naked woman stripped as a prostitute. They are not interested in a relationship and prefer to leave the money on the dresser. Boy, is that true. The old guard Republicans are having difficulty controlling the party for the first time. The newly elected freshmen are still caught up in just being there, and they lack the knowledge of how the economy works, and thus they were elected to stop the spending of Obama as they see it. So, there is no hope of a solution, and these freshmen are likely to push it all the way, and the Republicans are not as united as people think. The old and the new have their own battle lines drawn. The new Republicans, who came with an agenda, are not compromising as party politics normally did over the years. They may refuse to raise the debt ceiling and do not wish to compromise because they really see this as a spending problem. During the Great Depression, that thinking also won, and it was impressed upon Hoover that the budget had to be balanced to boost confidence. This is the central theme of Keynes, to allow deficit spending to stimulate demand in a depression. So the thinking process currently has been there before. This is typical and will rise to the surface in economic hard times, creating the impasse. Is the glass half full or half empty? I disagree with both camps. But this is not about my opinion. It is about what the hell is going on down there. And he shows a chart of gold from 2000, halfway through 2000, actually all the way through 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's, of course, as you would expect, like this. 750 or whatever, 800, 9,000, 1,100, 1,200, 13, 1,500. We're almost at 1,600. So all I can do is report what is taking place. I believe this is why the chart on gold I just published has a tremendous gap between the trading channel and the breakout line. I have never seen such a disparity. That gap will be filled. A thrust will take place big time, and that will coincide with an economic crisis event. Perhaps that is the shocker we are waiting for, but trading is like anything else. Sometimes you have to step back before you can go forward. I do not see a major correction in gold because support is too solid in the $1,000 to $1,300 level. Support he's talking about. It is the top of these primary and uptrend channels that we need to watch. Moving above that could cause a spike panic to the upside to test the breakout line. Then there would be a mini crash, rebuilt support, and then get ready for the moonshot. So yes, buying option well out of the money but below the breakout line could prove to be a home run, but with options, it is always about time. And for me and you people, forget options or anything else. We're talking physical, speaking of the word option. Perhaps I'm a fool for caring about the future. Maybe I should just shut up and go live on a remote island and wait for the orange glow and the mushroom cloud to appear on the horizon, and I will know then that it is all clear and at last safe to emerge. I do think it is hopeless to prevent what will be from being. That is the cycle. The collective fate of the nation is decided, and there is no stopping that. This is the cycle of life. Everything is born. Wait a minute, hold on. Is he using realist news examples here? Check this out, right? Everything is born. Remember I tell you about these cycles. Everything's a cycle. You plant a seed, it grows, it produces fruit, wilts, die. We were born, we crawl, we walk. I've said that many times. Old Martin Armstrong is fixing to get on some of the examples that I've used before. This is fantastic. I love this guy. I don't know. I want to start over by reading that last. This is the last paragraph, by the way. And I want to start over on that. There's a lot of good sentences in here. Perhaps I am a fool for caring about the future. Who's that remind you of? Oh, me. Yeah, that's right. Me too. I feel the same way. Pastor Dow feels the same way. There's lots of other people on YouTube that feel the same way. We're too few and far in between, so it doesn't matter. Perhaps I am a fool for caring about the future. Maybe I should just shut up and go live on a remote island and wait for the orange glow and a mushroom cloud to appear on the horizon, and then I'll know it is all safe and clear for me to come out and emerge. I do think it is hopeless to prevent what will be from being. He's not saying I don't think it's hopeless. In other words, there's hope. There's hope. Have hope. No. There's no hope, is what he just said. I do think that it is hopeless to prevent what will be from being. That is the cycle. The collective fate of the nation is already decided, and there is no stopping that. This is the cycle of life. Everything is born, it lives, and then it dies. This applies to mankind, plant life, animals, and government/collective groups. The best we can hope is to survive individually while this is all taking place. The torch will pass from the west to the east, and it will be their 309 years in the spotlight. Thank God we are not immortal, for hell would be having to stay here in such a corrupt world with no hope of changing the tide. So perhaps it is Frank Sinatra's song, after all, that is the greatest philosophical statement of all time. Send in the clowns, where he concludes, "Don't bother, they're here. They're already here." Man, is that a phenomenal statement. Just fantastic. The whole thing. I love Martin Armstrong. I've referred to him in the past. I've read some of his old papers. Back when no one even knew this guy really, great stuff in there. Has a very well-rounded view of things, especially economically speaking. Knows about the collapse of the Roman Empire. He's the one that showed you, here's why it actually collapsed. Technically speaking, it was the unfunded liabilities. Same problem we're having now. Therefore, we're going to collapse like they did. And I love the people who think this can't happen. This won't happen. We're the superpower. It can't happen. But you did read history books. Even the history books that were given to you, whether they're 100% truthful or not, you still believe that it's true. You did read about the Roman Empire collapsing, didn't you? Yes. They were the world superpower, weren't they? Yes. Then why can't it happen here? Well, because everyone wants our dollar. Our dollar is the world's reserve currency. That's all. Go ahead, I'm listening. We're the most freest nation on earth. We have the most freedom. Okay, let me stop you there. I should have stopped you at the first statement. Everyone wants our dollar. I don't need to hear that nonsense of the freest nation on earth. Go spend a little time on YouTube and see how free people are. Incredible with the police stops, searches, seizures, completely lying to people, detaining them. Just watched one the other day. 4 or 5 police officers out there detained a young child. Father's out there yelling at him, "Give me my child back. You're kidnapping my child for no reason." Refused completely to comply with any of them. Next thing you know is his child's released and he goes on his merry way. Incredible. In this country. Yeah, that happened right here. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed Martin Armstrong's little speech. This guy is really good. And it's not his official website, I think it says on here, but it's martinarmstrong.org. And when you first land there, I think it says this is not the official website of Martin Armstrong, but he does have all of his stuff on there, which is great. Anyways, again, I hope you enjoyed that, because this is true. It really is true. Damn, my nose is itching. What is up with that? Crikey. Crikey! So, as I've been saying too, I believe we're past the let's wake people up so that we can change things. No, I'm here to wake people up on an individual level. Like he said, let's try to survive whatever's coming individually, because that's all that's left. You're not going to change anything. Now, this whole thing has to collapse. It has to go down. It's going down. It's a sinking ship. I'm just trying to find a few people on top. Here's a life preserver for you. Here's a life preserver for you. Here's one for you. And then most people look at that and throw it back. I don't want that crap. Get that out of here. This ship's not sinking. Fine, I don't have time to argue with you. A bozo can figure out the ship is sinking, so you're not even in bozo status. So those who have eyes to see and ears to listen, as Pastor Dowell says, they're the ones that are going to pick up on this. That's why I'm trying to get things together, get my sorry butt out to Tennessee, somewhere near Pastor Dowell's, like I said, and hopefully I'll be one of the people still doing YouTube or whatever comes after YouTube in the near future, next 10 years or whatever. And that whole movement picks up where people start living with each other on a bunch of acres of land, growing your own food, your own cattle, all organic. You're not feeding my damn cattle, pumping it with, hormones and vaccines and stuff because the damn nipples on the cow are so pussed up and sickening that you'd get sick immediately if you drank the milk. They gotta pasteurize it and homogenize it and all this crap. And I get mad at my wife for spending $11 on 1 gallon of milk, and she gets 2 of them at a time, $22 at the health food store, and they have to put labels on it, not for consumption of humans, only for consumption of animals, so that they are covered, so they don't get in trouble by the imperialist FDA, whatever, federal government. Oh, that's not FDA approved. It has to be pasteurized. It has to be this and that. Why? It's organic. It is manually milked. It is fantastic. It is very healthy. All of our children drink it. And I don't care if the sticker on there says it's for animal. I choose to drink it. My wife chooses to drink it. It's not like normal milk. It's a lot thicker. It's extremely healthy for you. It's what milk is supposed to be. Not this garbage you get that's white, has a little bit of taste that your brain tells you is milk. But I can give you a piece of water, some water with some purple dye in there that tastes like something. Oh, it tastes like grape. Well, yeah, it tastes like grape, but it's just actually some chemical that's purple that tricked your mind into being grape. So how do you really know the milk you're drinking is milk? So I got mad when she came home with $22 worth of 2 1-gallon things of milk. I was pissed the first time. And then I started thinking about things. Well, okay, yeah, even the organic milk at Publix or wherever else, they still have to process it to some degree. This stuff is direct from the farm. What Pastor Dow has at his house with his cows and his goats, when I stayed there, guess what was in the room we stayed at, the little building we stayed at? In the refrigerator in there. We opened it up. Oh, some fresh goat's milk. Just recently got taken from the goats. Organic as you can be. My wife drank it, the kids drank it. Slight difference than normal cow milk, but so much little that I wouldn't bother me one bit. And we tore it up. So, anyways, gotta go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.